conference. All right, let's get it. All right, so I want to do a round of introductions on this panel. This is one of my favorite panels because it's talking about how we got to buy back the block, infrastructure, and all of those things. And these are people that I value. So I'm going to go down the line, and we're going to talk about who these people are exactly, and I will be your moderator for this conference. For this panel right here. First, I want to introduce, I'm going to start with Gordo, my good guy Gordo, who is once artist turned and pivot, and now he owns the store Popular DC. Everybody give it up for Gordo. Yay! All right, next, I got Murray Blackfoot. If you don't know about what's coming on the south side, it's something called Market 7, which will be better than Union Market. So it will be on the south side, Ward 7, and Mary's in charge of that. But she also does all these great pop-ups around the city, and she brings out thousands of vendors, and she has placed vendors here at the conference. So this is Mary. Everybody give it up for Mary. I know it's not a lot of people in the room right now, but we're gonna give it up for her. All right. So when the pandemic first started, all the venues closed down. I got to see how everybody acted. There's only 2 venues that I say, other than WG, that I say really stood down with us. Like got down in the mud. That was Pie Shop and Songbird. And Songbird, got my guy Joe right here, who's Songbird owner, co-owner of Songbird. He does have another partner. Everybody give it up for Joe. Yeah! Songbird is a really good venue, and believe me, they hot, they popping. They couldn't even book my show. So I'm gonna ask Joe why that couldn't happen in a few minutes. Okay, now next, one of my favorite people in the world. Everybody's my favorite people, but this guy right here, we've been through a lot. You don't know, the ceremony is dedicated also to my parents and Mr. Van Whitfield. And this is the owner of WEG. Y'all remember the old BET Studios? It is back open. We bought it. Somebody say yeah. Well, we didn't buy it. I said we, like, I said we strong as hell too. Like, we bought it. No, it's black owned. It's back to us. And Malcolm is the owner of the new studio called WEG, and it is a place for us. And so I'm excited to have Malcolm on this panel. Everybody get up for Malcolm. All right, I'm gonna start this panel off really simple. Why did you decide to jump in and buy a business or start to open up a brick and mortar here? What was the point? A venue, brick and mortar. Why are you doing this? This is not free, so why are you doing it?
Oh, man, a lot of people might know me from the music and doing music, so it was a time where, it was like either keep trying to do the music or figure something out. My goal was to one day open up a business in my neighborhood where I grew up at. So I had the opportunity where a few of my brothers, Wardy and another one of my brother, Carlos, we got together and we opened Popular Store right on the block where we grew up at on Georgia and Randolph. Growing up in DC, like coming up, a lot of people said that we wasn't gonna be able to own these stores and do the type of things that we doing now. And for us, our biggest accomplishment was having something in a place where it was gentrified, where people said only white people was gonna own it. And for us, that alone was an accomplishment. So when we got the opportunity to open a store and get into clothing and get into all this new stuff, it was like, man, new challenges, but we done faced everything already. So we was willing to take it on. At the same token, we got another opportunity to open an embroidery store in Ivy City. So not only we was able to open one business, but 2 business in the middle of a pandemic. So appreciate that. So to us to keep it, for us to be able to give young entrepreneurs. They had clothing lines and stuff to have a store, not like Downtown Locker Room and them. Shout out to Downtown Locker Room and everybody else. But we wanted to open a store not only to do our clothing line, but to give a platform to other people that had clothing to have a store where they could come in there and put their clothes in there without having to go through all the hassles and stuff. And at the same time, have the embroidery shop where we can help them brand and build their brand through something owned by them. It's for us. It's actually manufactured in Washington, D.C. It's not going overseas. And it's something that you could call your own without having to, to go through all the BS that we got to go through. So that's the reason we got involved in opening these stores and stuff.
I gotta hit you up for some Market 7 merch. Hi everybody, I'm Mary. I'm from Ward 7, and I started my business because I was hungry. After college, I moved back, I became a vegetarian, and quickly realized that we have a food desert east of the river. It's a very serious one. In fact, people in Ward 7 and Ward 8 are dying up to 16 years earlier than people on the other side of the bridge. So I thought that was a real problem. And I was like, why can't we just get another grocery store, like a more equitable one that has more fresh produce, things like that. And I asked around to so many community stakeholders and government officials, and I'm like, let's just get another grocery store. And they were like, Mary, that's not gonna happen because the area median income is far too low in Ward 7 and Ward 8 to support the kind of grocery retailers that you want. And I just didn't think that was acceptable. I had did some work in Ghana when I was in college, and I said, you know what? I've seen in communities that didn't have a lot of money, I've seen them have these collective community marketplaces that had total autonomy of the community through those marketplaces. And I was like, you know what? We could do that right here in DC. And so I've worked with over 70 Black-owned businesses over the course of the last 4 years to create alternative pop-up markets that have lifestyle items, fresh produce, cooked foods. And now we're developing a 7,000 square foot food hall right in Ward 7. So we are just so proud of our work. Thank you so much. And building in the pandemic. And so it's a brand new building from the floor. And what's so special about our project is our developer, our development company and partner is run by Adrian Washington, grew up in Anacostia. I'm from Ward 7. And so it's a whole east of the river project. And we talk about buying back the block. Not only are we going to be there, but there are a number of Black-owned businesses that are going to be there, including Industrial Bank, which is, first Black-owned bank right here in Washington, D.C. So we really are about some buy the block type of stuff right over by the Chateau. So when we open this summer, 3451 Benning Road, I hope to see you all there.
All right, I'm Joe, co-owner of Songbird Music House and Birdland Records, Ward 5, Union Market. As of, we moved the record store there in 2020, and the venue is now on Penn Street as of September 2021. Congratulations, good to see everybody. Congratulations on staying in this room for this panel. How many people consider themselves business people or entrepreneurs? Right. So that's awesome, and this panel is awesome because the political discussion is very, very important. But if you're in this room and you're a business person and an entrepreneur, you know that you have to sharpen your mind to what's really happening with your business and your entrepreneurship, and how you're going to take something that's your passion or your skill set and turn it into a livelihood for yourself, turn it into something that makes dollars and cents, turn it into something that is directly responsive to people every day, every week, every month. And the intersection of that and the political conversation is, of course, very important. But I know that the people that remained in this room for this conversation are the really sharp thinkers for what they want to do with their lives. For me, myself, it's really just born out of the passion for music. I grew up basically in let's call it a middle class-ish part of Montgomery County, Maryland, and spent a lot of time in this area. DC was always the place we came and were inspired by the culture and by the music. And I know that had an impact on what we do and what I've done. But then really just growing up and having a lot of important and formative experiences with music and figuring out and taking, a long time to really write business plans and really think about and build an understanding of what a business could be in the music space. And that's what has led us to Songbird and Birdland since 2015.
What's going on? My name is Malcolm Xavier. You probably know me as a DJ, 93.9 WKYS, but when I'm not doing that, I'm over at Whitfield Studios, which is on 1301 W Street Northeast, Ward 5 as well, neighbors to Songbird. What we are is an entertainment venue and space, so what we are specializing is bringing entertainment back to the DMV region with having real access to real recording studios, having access to real sound stages, real entertainment events that actually matter to our community and culture. We started this January 2020, right before the pandemic really hit, and it really kind of came from conversations that we have now about having access. And we know there's a magnitude of talented people here in the DMV. And what we always come into these rooms and we say, okay, why don't we have things for those talented people to go to? Why don't we have access to the infrastructure for people to actually succeed and move forward in their careers without having to move away and go to Atlanta, go to New York, go to LA and continue to build up their infrastructures and tax revenues and stories. So my father, who had a wealth of Hollywood experience, in TV and film, I had the music experience. We kind of came together and shared our brain trust to say, let's build something here that doesn't allow people to have the excuse of, I want to leave. And that's how we came up with Whitfield Studios. Before that, we weren't thinking we were going to end up in the BET space. Fortunately, we lucked up and got there. So now we're continuing to build this future for y'all.
All right. So I'm gonna ask a few questions and then we'll get into anybody in the crowd. So I guess my next question is, why should I invest in real estate? Everyone hears about the big real estate deals, package deals of 10 lots, the multi-million-dollar deals, but stats show most investors start with one property that's typically residence. So everybody doesn't have to answer, but I'll let whoever wants to answer.
Real estate makes a lot of money. At the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody that's going to need the space, use the space, especially now post-pandemic. You can even get short-term rentals and do numbers. And for me, as somebody who's still renting a space and paying a lot of money to rent the space, I would much rather be on the ownership side because there's always going to be that need. You're always going to have somebody who's going to need space. So if you can own.
So I actually come from a real estate background as sort of my job before I went into the business that I'm currently in. It's a really fascinating conversation. Obviously, real estate is, when you're talking about wealth building and long-term wealth building, it's certainly something to be learning about and looking at. I think definitely thinking long-term, right? These are things that you can look to accomplish over a decade or over a lifetime even. And man, just really, even myself, I try to really stay educating myself on what are the opportunities nowadays with technology to be involved in, slices of real estate ownership. There's a lot of technology happening out there where I don't have to, where I can own shares, or man, it's such a financial, it's so complex and interesting, but it's something, it's a topic I like. As far as like the business side of real estate, Songbird does not own its real estate. We are a tenant, but I heard Kenyon reference the commercial fund that they created to help a couple of businesses own real estate, and I actually think that's a really important topic in this city, which is what is the pathway for small businesses, and whether that's a really small business that wants to own a little condo, or whether it's larger businesses that are native to DC or have been doing business a long time in DC, pathways to ownership of the real estate. We just went through the pandemic, and if you were in a position to be your own tenant in a sense, and don't mistake that for saying that there aren't costs, because you're paying a mortgage, you're paying taxes, but when you can own your own real estate, and when you have a down month or a down year and you can work with yourself in a sense, it's definitely going to be a key strategy to preserving small business. I mean, I'll leave it there. I can pick up on this topic for a long time, but it's vast and it's interesting.
Yeah, I agree, because we don't talk about like commercial gentrification is a lot in this city. We always talk about residential gentrification. And also it's like a cultural equity thing as well, because if you own it, then you're here and we can be represented, and you have space to also lend to others who want to keep that cultural space going, right? So with Market 7, we are like a collective of businesses that are in this 7,000 square foot space. There's 8 stalls, there's 8 businesses, and then we can also have pop-ups and other innovative things in that space to create equity, right? I think about all the time like making like a Market 7 mix, because we'll play music all day. So how can we promote artists in that space, and how can we have gallery opportunities? How can we have other creative pop-ups in our lot? We have a lot in the back for parking. Like, we can do so many different things, and part of the push is just like owning that space so that you have autonomy in the community to do exactly that. So that's what we're trying to figure out now, is how can we get as many creatives? We have the food piece, but how can we also bring in the music, right? Every week, let's have a Market 7 mix and like push that on social media and in the market as well. And we can play it every day, you know? But that doesn't happen if you don't have autonomy of the space. And so I always encourage people to try to invest and then take advantage of city funds to do so as well.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna ask this question for Gordo, since you're and Malcolm, because we're coming from this music background, especially for you, Gordo, leaving. Well, you still do music, but how easy do you think it was to obtain property in DC? Like, how easy was it to get it? How was the process easy? And everybody can answer it maybe shortly, but how easy is it difficult now still, or how easy? Like, tell everybody, like, if somebody's in here that wants to acquire some property or open up a store, was it easier just of having like 10K in your pocket?
It was a little more difficult than that, but I was blessed with the opportunity to have an investor and somebody that believed in our vision and really was passionate. Like, we was passionate about what we was trying to do. So that's also an important part. Like, if somebody might have the money and you don't have the money, it's really like finding the right partner and the right chemistry for you to say, yo, let's build it into something bigger. You got the vision, I got the money. So I was fortunate to have somebody that was connected in the real estate in the city and had different options for me to really build what we had. So that was a good thing for me. But for somebody coming up, it's like, this is the time I believe for you to if you got an opportunity, a couple of racks or something that you want to invest in getting a business, like, bet on yourself. Because going into this, I really thought that it was far-fetched and it wasn't gonna, like, I was optimistic about how it was gonna go, but once I got into it, it was just like, oh yeah, I could really do this. And I started getting more passionate about the clothes. Like, if you follow me from the beginning, I was just doing vinyl t-shirts, and now it's like I'm trying to get more creative and I'm really passionate about it. So I took an opportunity and made it my vision, even though it was just something that just kind of like landed on my lap. You know what I mean? I'm passionate about music, and you know, we still get busy with the music, not really as a rapper, but behind the scene. But most importantly, it was like, now I have a bigger challenge with, like, I gotta make this work. Like, when it comes down to the popular brand, it's like, I want people to know me for that. Like, a lot of people come, Gordo, you the rapper? No, bro, like, it's popular now. Like, this is clothes. I gotta make a statement the same way that I did when I was an artist. So, you know what I mean? Like I said, just find somebody, a group of people that believe in it. Some people make millions over $1,000. If you got the right plan and your execution is on there, it's possible.
Yeah, to Gordo's point, you know, anything is possible. I think what you asked about difficulty is super relative, because, you know, if you're passionate enough about it and you want to make it happen, the most difficult thing in the world is going to feel like nothing. And in our instance, you know, we secured like 80,000 square feet of space, you know, in Northeast, which was not easy to do. And many people had tried to get the same space right before us, and it took years. You know, BET left DC in 2017, and that space sat empty until 2021. So for about 5 years. And when we talk about, you know, commercial gentrification, our location is like, I don't want to say a victim of it, but it's right in the dead center because it's in the opportunity zone we're getting charged way more than what we should be getting charged. And it's really because the landlord is trying to kind of just, keep the market rate for everything else that they own in the area at the same rate. So they can charge whatever they want to charge. And we kind of get caught in the hard end of that. So getting in, it took us about a year. Can't say it was necessarily hard because we went through all the red tape we would have had to go through anyway legally. But actually now being in there is the challenge, and really trying to fight to stay in there and make sure it's something that's actually profitable and we can stay there for the next 20, 30, 40 years is going to be the challenge.
I want to say something. Rent is high out here. But actually, my passion is actually micro entrepreneurship and, small business. I would say Songbird and Birdland are certainly small businesses. Like, think about real estate a little differently too. Some people think of it as this whole thing, right? This little space right here is real estate. If you go somewhere and you think it's a good location and you like what someone's doing, or you like the staff there, or you like the vibe there, and you see I think they could use that amount of space better than they're using it. Pitch them on something, like he's talking about, okay, at Birdland, we just subleased, I'm talking no more than 300 square feet to a repair. They repair turntables, they repair amplification devices, 250 square feet. I'm now utilizing my little bit of space better for somebody who has an expertise and a business. I could lease one rack of clothes to somebody if I thought that they really knew their business and had this hustle and were able to understand the marginal impact of their business to that space. So I think, in this city with rents and these tight spaces, there's an opportunity to think about real estate differently and on a smaller micro scale.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So we talked about the difficulty. I want to talk about the effects of the pandemic, and then I'm gonna open it up for anybody that has questions. And we all had. Yeah, see, I ain't got an answer. I can't even get it out. What has that been like? Because we started here one way as a business. How do you feel like the city has treated you guys, and what does it look like for the future of the pandemic, moving around after how we operating in DC? Mary, I'm gonna let you start it off because you kind of know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
they're trying to get it
the
out.
pandemic, it stalled some things out.
It stalled things. It stalled this.
And we're building from the ground. So our development is brand new out the ground. We had to knock a building down, total demo, and then build a 14,000 square foot building on top of that in a pandemic. And supply chain was delayed. We have 6-month lead times now on electrical panels and things like this. We're still building. And so it's really created kind of a bottlenecking of opportunity, right? Because we want to open quick and everybody needs it, right? Now, I'll reiterate this stat. People east of the river are dying 16 years earlier than people on the other side of the river because of the lack of access to food. They're dying from things like diabetes and heart disease and things that could be changed in part or altogether through a change of diet. And so we are pressing up against the timeline of trying to open because we want to get things to you, but it's been difficult, right? A lot of things have been stalled. A lot of funding has been stalled. A lot of opportunities around workplace has been changed.
So is this a bad time to get in business?
It's not a bad. Listen, it's always a perfect time to get business for me.
Okay.
And so we worked through that, and we've been so blessed because I guess the in the wake of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, there has also been this lens on equity in Black communities, especially Black and brown communities who have been treated unfairly. And so there has opened up this conversation about what can people do more. And I think the city has come around and created funds like the acquisition fund, like the food fund here in DC that is given up to $750,000 to businesses to open food businesses east of the river. So if you're a food business, please do so, please apply. And we're and I think I saw Christy in the back. DSLBD, I think is the dream grants are still around.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are. Christy will be up next.
Trying to give more opportunities to, and we're a dream grant recipient, so thank you DSLBD, and trying to get more opportunities to small businesses by way of government. So there are efforts being made. Of course, we want to do more. We want to do more crowdfunding. We want to do all of that, but staffing is an issue in the wake of the pandemic, right? People are, we can't find a lot of help. People are moving around a lot. And so that's been kind of like our bottleneck. And then also just like a lot of supply chain things that have been difficult for us.
Yeah, definitely supply chain. Anybody else?
Yeah, to add to what she said, because it was a lot going on. Like, just be good. Like, also when you start a business, man, just be good to people. Because like with us, it's like we started right when the pandemic started, and we didn't qualify for no funding for nothing, because we were supposed to start in 2019 and we didn't qualify for nothing and doing clothes, selling clothes, and when people was not even going outside. So it was like it was like a Mission Impossible kind of situation, but just us like branding ourselves and being good to people, like them Bird and all these people that was coming to support and still like buying clothes and making clothes during this time kept us open. So like, bet on your community as well. This is what I'm saying. Like, when you open up a business, don't be so like focused on just the business part, but also be focused on the people that are around you, because that's what's gonna keep your business open. So if you don't do plan a strategy or how you're gonna keep your community and the people around you engaging and really loving what you're doing for what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? If that makes sense, like, it's another thing that people don't really pay attention to. So we didn't have no funding, no help, selling clothes when people was in the house, and we still survived. So I appreciate everybody that came through and showed us love through that time, because we here because of y'all. So thank you.
I'm gonna give it a chance to open up the floor for questions. Anybody have any questions? We'll start with you.
Let's hear some sharp entrepreneurial questions. I want to hear them.
Ooh, that was loud. Wait. Is that? I mean, it's truth. It's truth. And I'll piggyback off her to ask the question: is that even possible? Is that? And you can be truthful, right? You can say, "No, I can't give away every contact." Because we can say that. We can say that. We can say that here, but you probably don't want to say that.
I mean, I don't know if I can list all my contacts right here, but listen, follow up.
But she's right though. She's absolutely right. It's like this talk around.
I could talk about grants that we get. So we've definitely gotten grants from the city, DSLBD, the Dream Grant, DMPED grants, the Department of Planning and Economic Development, that's DMPED. We also won a great grant in the midst of the pandemic from Essence Magazine and Pine Sol, $150,000 to a Black-owned, women-led business. They do that every year, so check the Essence website. It comes around every year. And then also just, we have worked with Sibley Hospital too, who has been very instrumental in getting us in rooms. I think what a lot of people don't know about grants and funding opportunities, it's about relationships a lot of the times. And people have to see you. And even in the midst of the government, like, I'm gonna call Christy out in the back, because Christy, the director of DSLBD, there in the back.
You know, I don't want to keep calling on her, but she's definitely here. So if y'all stay for the next conversation, y'all can bug her too.
There, but like, make sure you introduce yourself. There's a lot of people.
Shannon is here as well. Shannon, you can raise your hand. Shannon, raise your hand. All right, that's Shannon from Made in DC. Not Made in the DMV, but Made in DC. Hey, they are sponsors here. They have been sponsoring. I don't have to cut you off, but we just talking about resources. DSLBD has sponsored Made in the DMV conference since day one. Let's clap it up, okay? And I can say this, and I don't mean to say it like this, but they have been the only agency to support us since day one. So I love them, and I really do appreciate Christy, Anna, Shannon, and Kate. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but these people in the back of the room, I'm gonna bring them up after this conversation. Y'all have to tap into. I know people say don't, and it's weird. Like, they not really weird as you think. Like, and they be just like on it. I tell them some ideas, they be like, oh, all right, bet. Let me see if I got it, and they might got it. So you gotta It's them. I'm telling you, it's them. Sorry to put y'all on the spot, but
yeah, and it's relationship, and how I started really is like I started going to my ANC meetings, like, and I know that seems like so basic. Who goes to the ANC meeting? ANC 7, I'm in 7F, and I just started going to my ANC meetings and meeting everybody who came, and I shook hands, and I went to council member meetings, and I went to other community meetings like this, like-minded people, and they were telling me where the grants were, where the opportunities were, and as soon as you find your tribe of people, like, the opportunities will come. I'm so glad I came to this conference like 3 years ago, met Bert, I was like, oh, we gotta work. We gotta do something. Now, I'm working with her with Art All Night and so many other platforms.
And it's money around that.
And it's money around that. So, yeah, I say get in the room and start right in your community with your ANC. You may only think, oh, it's only 20 people in the room, but that 20 people lead you to the next and the next and the next and the next thing. And it started with me just going to community meetings and talking to people and seeing who the players are and where the opportunities are.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, you know, if you're in this room, all the players that you need to talk to are probably in this room. And as Bird pointed out, most of them are in the back of the room. But what, you know, as our company is like internally funded, one of the coolest things that I've seen done in the city, and Ian is not here, but what Sandlot did with one of their first locations, that they actually went through family and friends to actually get a lot of their funding. And it was great because you saw, you know, people that look like us go to people that look like us and say, hey, look, you can have some equity in this business. You can actually buy into your own community. You can buy back the block yourself. We don't have to go to and wait for the grant and wait for the government to do it right. And Ian is another great person to talk to because he knows the grant game probably better than anybody else I've ever met. He gets them and he gets some situations I don't even understand how he gets in, but it works every single time. So I think a lot of times it is just, you know, like Bird is saying, you just got to look around at the people that's around you and just be afraid to have those conversations because you never know what's going to work and what's not going to work until you try.
And I'll address it quickly, which is a piggyback on the friends and family. You know, I worked for 15 years before I opened a business and saved, you know, my money and tried to live frugally, especially once I had a vision for wanting to start a business. I think there's nothing more powerful than investing in yourself or demonstrating that you want to invest in yourself. So again, it's all there's different scales to it. If you were able to save $10,000 or $15,000 over some period of time and show that you're prepared to invest that in yourself, that then becomes powerful to the network of friends and family. Why should, and friends and family is very important because if they're not going to invest in you, like it's concentric circles, right? So if I have $10,000 I'm willing to invest in myself, then my next concentric circle of people who care about me and are willing to listen to me, right? Like I can get at my mom's table, right? Like I don't have to open a lot of doors to get to her table. If I show like, here's my vision and here's $10,000 I'm willing to invest in myself, okay, maybe now she's willing to invest $10,000 in me. Now, once that concentric circle believes in my vision, okay, maybe now I'm demonstrating a certain amount of capital that I can go to my bank, who, by the way, I kept my money in the same bank this whole time. I would be nice to the staff at the bank. I would maybe ask if I could have a meeting with the person who does small business lending at the bank over time. I did, when I bought a house, I did my mortgage through that same bank. So now I'm building a relationship with this one bank. So therefore, if they know me a little bit, I was able to get an equipment loan for a certain amount from that one bank because I banked with that bank. I did a home mortgage through that bank. So I don't know. Those are some responses to that question.
Also, because I know a bank's the one way to get money, but also I want to point out community development financial institutions, which give more flexible capitals to small businesses. So the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, that's one that's local. Harold Pettigrew is...
Take notes.
Harold Pettigrew is the CEO. He's a Ward 7 person, lives in Ward 7. Yeah, please write that down. And if you want to ask me questions about it, but they have more flex capital. They're also able to give grants. They also can lend in a smaller quantity for businesses that are just starting out. So pay attention to your local CDFIs, because that is where some really flex capital can come in and really help outside of traditional banking that makes you go through a million hoops, and it has not always been advantageous for people of color.
All right. We're gonna ask one more question before we switch over. Anybody have a question?
The biggest problem I've run into and the biggest problem I typically see is lack of capital. Most people have a $1 million idea with $10. And then it's trying to find the gap of like, how am I going to find the rest of this money to actually get to my idea and dream? And that's where we start talking about the different sources of funding. And that's where, to his point, if you're willing to invest in yourself enough, you'll get to it, because you'll understand the wherewithal and discipline to have that's necessary to run a business in the first place that you need for yourself. But then once you actually start having those conversations with people who have the money and been in business long enough, or just angel investors, whatever the case may be, you'll be able to have conversations with them where they'll see the gap and they'll see your dream and they'll see the vision. As long as you stay organized. A lot of times people, they're trying to communicate that idea from just their passion without being able to communicate it from the actual business standpoint of like, how is this, if I give you $1 million, how's it gonna make me $1 million back? And not just because you really like music, not because you're really passionate, because everybody in this room is really passionate about something, but being able to actually find the gap and understand from a business aspect of like, how am I gonna communicate this out? How am I gonna actually find the funding that I need? Knowing the right amount of funding that you need is another big thing, because a lot of people go in thinking, oh, it's only going to need $10,000. It really was like a $200,000 job. So understanding how to do that, budget correctly, that's how you'll get to it very easily. Yeah, very solid business plan. It sounds corny, but at the end of the day, that's the key to business. If you got a solid business plan, that's half the battle.
Yeah, and also to add to what he said, we gotta get away from the mentality that this area is like a crab in a barrel thing that they be talking about, because that stop us from reaching out to each other and really trying to build. You know what I'm saying? So like, if we get out that mindset and start reaching out to your brothers and sisters and everybody in here, and don't be shy to get their number, get their information and build. You never know what great could come out of this. You know what I'm saying? And that's the positivity we got to continue in this area. I think DC, Maryland, and Virginia has amazing talent and a lot of people that's going to do great things, but we got to get out of that mentality and start really trying to work with each other and stop thinking that it's not gonna work. So let's get it. We got people like Malcolm, people like myself, people like Mary, everybody in here that is willing to work and really to come out and stick together. So let's do it for us and put our city in the map.
For sure. Yo, I want to thank y'all for this panel. You had something to say, Joe?
Yeah, just quickly, I guess. In the music business specifically, actually, yeah, I do want to say this. I think people recognizing the value, the customer, the consumer, the paying value. People will pay, vintage clothing is going off the charts right now. Like, all you thrifters and merch people, whatever, I hope y'all are doing well. People will pay $60, $80 for a t-shirt. I still don't see the willingness always to pay to go to see live art and to see live music. Actually, I think that's one of the biggest things to continue to condition people to treat music as valuable to the consumer is one of the biggest things in the music business.
Hi, just wanted to, Market 7, just wanted to plug our socials. So we're at Market, the number 7 DC on Instagram and Twitter. We're opening this year, so please follow us, follow our journey, and we hope to see you at our new food hall this year.
Sure. Yeah, so give it up for our Buy Back the Block panel. This is I want everybody to tap in. We're gonna switch over to our next panel. I wanna thank all of our panelists. Joe, Malcolm, Mary, and Gordo probably be around. They may be around. You guys can have a conversation with them. Joe is a great person trying to get on that Songbird schedule. Don't know how that's gonna go. Can we get on it?
Yeah, we can talk about that, yeah.
Can we talk about that? Just talk to the side. Like, can I get
whatever
there?
You want.
Songbird is hot though, yes. So next up will be a talk with Christy from DSLBD, made in DC. If you guys want to stay around, she is up next. Everybody give everybody a clap, round of applause. And if y'all don't know, I got Miles Mini Shooter. If y'all don't get a picture by Miles now, in about 2 years, the price is gonna be up high. We are taxing. They already are.